This is the story of how I lived with a Filipino family in the province for 2 months and what that experience was really like for me. Really quickly before we get started, I just want to make sure you guys know that We Wonder now has a Discord channel. Check it out, the top link in the description. If you're a fan of travel, the Philippines, We Wonder, or any of the type of videos that we post on this channel, I know you're gonna find something you like there and you won't regret it. So I really do urge you to go check it out. You seriously have nothing to lose, costs you nothing. You're just joining an awesome community of people who all love the same things. There's really no reason not to check it out. But let's get on with the story. First of all, I know some people are gonna ask why I don't have Izay, my girlfriend whose family I lived with in the province, with me for this story. Honestly, I really wanted to do just this one alone. I wanna give my full deep thoughts on this, and I want it to fully come from someone who's not from the Philippines and who had never been in a Filipino house, never been in the province, done any of that stuff before. Izay obviously grew up here. She knows all those things. But don't worry, she's gonna be in the next video, so get ready. So where do we start with this? I guess just at the beginning, of course. Izay grew up in southern Leyte. She has a lot of family living there, as well as her cats. She really wanted to visit them, so in the small amount of time that we were getting to know each other, when I was here last year, she suggested that I go with her to southern Leyte. She obviously just wanted to visit family, and she thought it would be an awesome chance for me to vlog it. At the time, I was getting more and more into vlogging unknown, hidden spots, and anyone who knows anything about southern Leyte knows that not very many vloggers go there, especially not very many foreign vloggers. So this was really a big chance to find things that had never been vlogged in this way before and put them all over YouTube and out to the world so more people can find them and experience them for themselves. So honestly, I was all in. The plan was to go with her and her mom from Cebu City all the way to the municipality of Bontoc in southern Leyte, where their home in Leyte is. We were thinking we'd only spend 2 or 3 days staying in Bontoc, just exploring that area. We thought that'd give us enough time to find and rent a motorbike so we could go and start exploring the province and just live out of hotels. We were really so naive. It was definitely an interesting trip getting to Leyte and to Bontoc, a story in itself that I'm thinking about telling someday, we'll see. But for now, just know we made it. It was nighttime already and we first stopped off at Izay's uncle's house. This was my first time being in a more provincial type home in the Philippines. Honestly, it was totally fine.
My mom and I, this used to be our room before when I was in high school. And then the school is in a walking distance.
I remember her aunt kept apologizing for it not being as big or as nice or as fancy as homes I'm probably used to back in America. But I mean, really, it was a big size and it was nice. Sure, it's not as fancy as the houses I was used to, but it was totally fine, and honestly, I never would have thought twice about it. When we were there, they had me try bitter melon for the first time, and shocker, it's very bitter. Do I have the right proportions?
Yes. Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
It's good, but it is bitter. Before we left there to head to the actual house I would be staying in, her aunt gave me the interrogation, asking me things like, what's my intentions in the Philippines, my intentions in southern Leyte, my intentions with Izay, what's my religion. And honestly, a lot of other questions that I just found hard to answer. Not because I didn't have good answers, but because, honestly guys, the thing is, I may be a vlogger, but in real life, when the camera's not on, I do tend to lean more toward the side of introverted and shy. Especially when meeting new people, and especially when just surrounded by a lot of people you don't know in a totally new area. It can be a little bit overwhelming for me, for sure. It's something I've been trying to work on, but this just made it hard for me to really know what to say, and I'm pretty sure I just came off really quiet. After around an hour there, our hobble hobble arrived. For those who don't know what a hobble hobble is, it's basically just a motorcycle taxi. It was my first time seeing a hobble hobble that had the roof on it. In southern Leyte, they all have roofs built on the hobble hobble. It's so awesome. I freaking love it. I don't know why they don't allow it everywhere in the Philippines. Maybe someone can let me know. Maybe it's dangerous or something, but in my experience, it was awesome. He took us deep into the mountains, far away from any large towns or any Wi-Fi.
God, please, no!
Really great for a travel vlogger. What felt like deep into the night, which was probably really like 8 p.m., we arrived. My first impression was the house was very open to the outside. Actually, I didn't really realize that until the next day when it was bright out and I could see, because there's only a few lights in there, so it was a bit dark. But it was a very basic concrete structure, a sheet metal roof over top. Pretty standard, honestly, for provincial Filipino type home. But it was really a nice size. It was quite spacious. As I had already expected before coming here, there was no shower, no bath. You have to use a pail and a bucket to wash yourself. So this is where you take a bath. This is where you take a bath. What you do, you use, this is the pail, and this is the dipper. You get your water, and then you just pour it on yourself. That's the shower. Guys, it's really not as bad as it looks. I mean, it is cold, but it's alright. See you in a bit. And yes, if you're wondering, it is very cold. Some days, especially if you shower early in the morning, it's very, very cold. Also, the bath area is pretty open. Not as open as I've seen with some people as I'm driving by. So I'm thankful that it was at least a bit closed, but again, it was pretty open. But honestly, I'm not complaining. It just takes a bit of getting used to, and especially if you go in expecting it, it really isn't that bad. After a while, you get used to it and it just becomes a part of your day, and it's fine. It's cold, but it's fine. I was sleeping in the one little upstairs room that they had. Again, very open. I wouldn't realize until the next morning, but one whole wall just isn't there. It's just open to the outside. But I did have a net over my bed to keep out any bugs and the cats. So I'm in my bed underneath the mosquito net. They gave me a whole room, VIP treatment. It's very nice, very awesome of them to, you know, take me in for a few days and allow me to stay here and being so kind. So I really do appreciate it from them. To be honest, it was actually rather comfortable. I mean, I had a lot of good nights of sleep there. It kind of just can be compared to back when I was a Boy Scout, just like camping. It just feels like you're partly outside. It's not that big a deal. It's actually really peaceful, if I'm being honest. I met Izay's aunt and her grandma, who lived in the same house as well as their cats. Her Lola spoke no English whatsoever, so we basically couldn't communicate unless somebody translated it. That being said, she was very, very nice, and both Izay's grandma and aunt were very welcoming and really made me feel at home, even though it was totally different than anything else I had ever experienced. The first night also taught me that in the province, karaoke does not care if you want to sleep. Almost every day there would be karaoke happening from somewhere from one of the neighbors in the barangay until 10 p.m. and then a lot of days it would start back up again at 5 a.m. because between 10 p.m. and 5 p.m. they're not allowed to do it. If that rule didn't exist, I would almost bet all the money I have people would be doing karaoke through the entire night. That definitely took some getting used to and a lot of earplugs. On my first full day, they took me out around the town. I met a lot of the neighbors. I raked rice on the road.
You're hired, you're hired.
I rode a carabao. It was an eventful first day. Honestly, I was having a ton of fun and everyone that I met seemed so nice. The next day, they took me up this mountain that was close by and Izay told me about how her mom and her siblings used to have to walk down the mountain all the way into the main town to go to school every day. It's pretty far. Guys, this is so freaking gorgeous. We picked up some people along the way if you didn't notice.
Nga nung nananoon mo.
Asa mo?
Hanapin mo.
A few days later, I would end up at a Filipino birthday party. First time ever trying lechon, along with a lot of other standard Filipino dishes. Later that same night, they told me there was a disco going on in the next barangay over. We walked there with Izai's aunt and her friend. I really had absolutely no idea what to expect from a Filipino disco. When I hear disco, I think of my parents in bell-bottom pants with disco balls overhead. That wasn't what this was. It was basically a rave in a basketball court. A lot of fun and not at all what I expected. But I'm very glad I got to experience a Filipino disco deep in the province. Like, how many foreigners can say they've got to do something like that before? I'm super, super grateful for it and for just this whole experience in general. As you may have figured out, we didn't stay there for only 2 or 3 days. Seems pretty obvious. We had a really hard time getting a motorbike. A lot happened with that, and that's a long story that I want to tell with Izai later on. But in the end, we would end up staying in this house for 2 months. It honestly blows my mind to think that for 2 months, I slept under the net, bathed with the bucket, and just lived the provincial way. My biggest regret from that time is not filming all of it. At that time, I was just obsessed with wanting to be out traveling, finding those hidden spots. I was so frustrated that we didn't have the bike and we had a hard time leaving and not realizing that I was getting to do something that very few foreigners really get to do in such an authentic way. I really, really should have filmed way, way more of it, and I definitely regret that I didn't. In that time, I tried more foods than I ever had tried before in my life. I was taught multiple different words in Bisaya. I would spend hours washing my clothes in the river. I even went to the little church in the barangay with them every Sunday. The entire service was in Bisaya. I had no idea what was going on, but I was there. At some point early on, we were invited to go on a beach trip with others from the barangay. We all packed into the back of this truck on a rainy day with food pushed under the seat to try to hide it from the rain, while the people from the barangay, along with the barangay captain, just drank and laughed the whole way. This is another experience that's just not something that you could do back home. Even one person in the back of the truck, you'd probably get a ticket or arrested. I think that kind of brings it around to my takeaway from this whole experience. Hours flying down the road in a full-on downpour as the food's being soaked, yet everyone is laughing and having an amazing time. Vloggers love to talk a lot about how different things in the Philippines has changed them. But this one really deeply changed me and changed my perspective on life. Just living this for 2 months, the people in this area don't have anywhere near the amount of money or possessions as people I know back home where I'm from, but it doesn't matter. I've never felt more genuine happiness, contentment, and gratitude as when I was living there. Everyone's always smiling and laughing. They may not have as many physical things, but almost all of them are very close with family and friends. It feels like out there in the province, people are really able to make real, genuine connections with people in a way that I haven't seen since I was a kid. This area reminded me of being a kid and reminded me of stories my parents would tell from when they were younger. The kids always outside, running and playing, getting into adventures, all the animals everywhere, from dogs to cats and even snakes. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing wrong with using Wi-Fi, using screens all the time, but being in this area where I really couldn't even do that, it showed me how easy it can be to find genuine connections with people when you're there with them face to face and forced to come up with your own adventures. I really wish somehow everyone from back home could live this way for at least a few months. This simpler way of living almost feels like how life was meant to be lived. Today we just have so many distractions. It really feels like now there's always something from every side trying to distract you, take your attention, or just stressing you out. If you ever have the chance to do something like this, just do it. I promise without a doubt you'll come out with a different perspective than what you went in with. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're a foreigner like me, Have you ever got to experience living in the province with a Filipino family like this before? Please let me know your experience. I really honestly would love to hear it. And before we go, I want to remind you one last time to join that Discord. The link at the top of the description. If you don't have a Discord, go make one. Check it out. Promise you won't regret it. Next story, I will have Izai with me. Get hyped, guys. See you in the next one. Keep wondering.